So the modern day state of my channel seems to be a lot like the modern day state of Marvel in that it's nothing but terrible ideas and relentless spin-offs. So why don't we combine the two with this entirely new series I'm doing? What if every class in TF2 had X? This is going to be a series where we take one weapon from one class and essentially redesign it for every other class in the game. And to kick this new series off, we're going to be starting with the Babco Bibbins. The Bazingo Bazungo is one of the simplest ideas for a weapon I've ever seen in TF2, yet it also happens to be the most effective. Its entire philosophy comes down to start weaker, get rewarded for good aim, become stronger over time. This is of course the best sniper rifle, as its downsides just are pretty negligible. But we're not going to be taking into account how broken it is on sniper, we're just going to be redesigning its core concept for every other class in the game. So if you've ever wondered how Scout will play with the Bazingo Bazungo, first we'll get some help, and second I'm here to answer that question. So this is going to work as follows. For some classes we will be redesigning old and current weapons that are just not very good. And for some other classes we'll be designing entirely new weapons based around this concept. This has already been quite a long intro, so we're just going to get started. However, if you're still confused, it will make more sense the longer we go on. So as we do with all of these lists, we're going to be starting with Scout. Now remember, the basic premises we're working around here is that you start worse off, get neutral, and then get better over time. To make this as simple as we can, I will be mirroring the Blimpo Belungi's basic -2, 0, plus stats, in that you start off 2 times worse than you normally would, then you get to neutral, and then you get better. And with all that being said, for Scout I would like to attack the Babyface's blaster. So we all know this thing is in such an abysmal state right now, and it was never even too broken to begin with, but just like literally everyone else on the planet, Valve only listened to the loudest complaining voice instead of the correct one and nerfed this thing into oblivion. So let's essentially give it a small rework. You still start off with a -10% movement speed negative, however for every kill you get you gain 5% movement speed. This is of course 5% of your base movement speed. So Scout's base movement speed is 133%, and literally every time I've ever brought up factual statistics within TF2, someone always comments down below saying it's wrong. No, the Spy does move at the same speed as the Medic, the Scout moves at 133%. Anyway, small ranting tangent aside, with the Babyface's blaster you can cap out at 173% speed. This is the fastest anyone can ever move forward in game. So this cap would still be in place for every kill you get, gaining the 5% movement speed bonus. This means it would take roughly 10 kills to get to your 173% movement speed bonus. If you want to consider that a nerf, you can, however you also don't lose these kills upon being sneezed on by the enemy, so I think this is a buff. Okay, hopefully you understand how this is going to work now as we move on to Soldier. Now, as it currently stands, Soldier has the closest thing to the Bazingo Bazargins that we could possibly get in that of the airstrike. But I personally love this weapon, so I'm not going to dare rework it. But in terms of what else we have to play around, I'd like to move into the realm of projectile speed. This is why I think the Liberty Launcher would be perfect to re-usher into this new state of being. As the current Liberty Launcher doesn't really know what it's trying to be, it tries to do too many things and that's why it's bad. So with this newly found Liberty Launcher, you start off with a slower projectile speed, but every kill you get increases the projectile speed up to a certain cap. We could probably boost this up to like a 50% projectile speed bonus, and we can also get rid of this incredibly harsh damage penalty. Now in terms of how good this would be, I'm not too sure, as I don't use this thing because it is clearly terrible, so maybe someone who does use this thing could inform me as to how good or bad this would be, but I'm going to assume regardless, this change is going to upset someone. So I'm just going to let those people do their thing as we move on to Pyro. Now for Pyro there really isn't much we could possibly do. The only real thing other than Air Blast we could do is increase afterburn damage, but I don't think that sounds very fun to fight against. You could maybe increase afterburn duration, but then again that kind of defeats the whole purpose of the Jungle Inferno nerfs. So I think we'll be going with an Air Blast Flamethrower. For every kill you get with a projectile you will gain an Air Blast increased speed bonus. This means that you can Air Blast more frequently. Obviously this comes at the cost of having a base slower Air Blast speed, and all of your bonuses being lost upon death just like all of the others. This isn't too dissimilar to the idea of the Novice Sailor which I proposed a while ago in my Air Blast video, however this one's more Bazingo Bazungo focused. Now we move on to Demo, and I know I said Soldier is the closest to having a Bazingo Bazinkies, but then again, Demo probably is with the Islander. This thing has the exact same design as the Bilbo Brunkins in that you start off weaker, yet you get stronger over time. So I'm not going to touch the Islander in any way, shape or form, as it's clearly the most beloved weapon out there in terms of Demo Man's arsenal, so instead we got to turn to the primaries. The loose cannon would be too complicated for us to touch, the stock grenade launcher is fine as is, and the iron bomber is kind of just boring, but then again it's also better. So really that only leaves us with one option in that of the lock and load. And to sound like I'm copying pasting, I would like to just do the similar thing we did with the Liberty launcher to this. We keep every other mechanic the same except we rework the projectile speed to fit in with our previous criteria. So the main reason I chose the lock and load for this is because that I went to a game the other day, someone on the enemy team was using the lock and load, and someone on my team was still raging calling it a crutch after all these years. And that just really made me laugh, so I've deliberately made this change just to piss him off even more. At halfway through the list we come to heavy, and I'd really like to make a change to the Hulong heater. This thing is terrible unless you're constantly huddling to the cart, so why don't we make it great unless you're constantly huddling to the cart. You start with an initial damage penalty, however the more kills you get, the more damage you deal against burning players. This is the Hulong heater's main stat already, so I'd just like to make it much stronger. As for the name team being in the game, there really isn't much teamwork you can do in terms of class combinations, and I'd really like to see some of that changed. Now, Engineer is actually the hardest one to come up for with this list. How on earth do I rank sentry kills into getting more kills to becoming stronger? That just seems completely unfair. So the only other thing we could possibly tackle is the Wrangler's shield or the wrenches. Maybe we could have it so that every kill you get with the Wrangler makes the shield stronger, however I just think the shield should be removed to begin with. So what I've done is design a shotgun that only the NG can use, which essentially means the more kills you get, the more movement speed you get. This will be the staple primary for the Battle Engineer playstyle, as currently Battle Engineers don't have much in way of just the normal stock shotgun or the Widowmaker. Now would be a good time for me to explain the no random critical hits on most of these weapons, as the sniper rifles cannot random crit, and if they could, the ability to roll a dice and instantly kill your enemy to get a bonus would be incredibly strong. So most of, if not all of the weapons on this list are going to contain no random critical hits. Now Medic was actually much easier to design and engineer, even though you think it wouldn't be the case. In theory we just have to design a medigun as a slower healing output at first, yet gets more heals over time the more kills your target gets. You could potentially lock it so that it would only heal more on the player that has more kills compared to someone who doesn't, however that would encourage pocketing and I don't really want to do that. But overall this medigun design is the one I have the least confidence in. And lastly, with Sniper already owning the main focus of this video, we turn to Spy. So back when he produced good content, I saw the Muselk video in which he was playing with a custom spy weapon. For every kill you got, you get a movement speed bonus. I think this is a fantastic idea. In terms of applying our backwards bedinging stats, we're going to essentially have to make the spy move slower at first. Like Father Like Son, this will essentially be the babyface's blaster of spies. And if the big earner has a health negative bonus as well, then we could probably give the Sting one too. The main problem we'd have balancing this weapon is that we don't want to outright replace the big earner. And if this weapon would just get kills, move faster, but start moving slower than you normally do, I feel that would essentially replace the big earner in the eyes of good spies. So I feel we should also give the Sting the health bonus. And with that, a new series has been started when I have barely finished any of the old ones, and I can't wait for people to be angry at every single thing I've suggested in this video. If it looks on your end that I've made nothing but poor choices for this video, you do need to understand that no one is universally going to agree on these things. One good idea to one person is a terrible idea to the next. If you, the two people that disagree with me out of the 800 people that do agree, that does not make me an idiot. It just means we all have different opinions on the same game that we all love, and that's completely fine. But regardless, thank you very much everyone. Regular content uploads are going to return as I normally said yesterday, and the Patreon/second channel are growing ever closer to completion. The second channel is nowhere near completed yet, as I really just don't want to start the hassle of making an entirely different channel and starting from scratch again, because I know how difficult that is. And the fact that it'll be content that I want to make on there that no one else would want to watch, it seems like a lot of effort for nothing, and I might as well just upload these videos onto this channel. But the hive mind that is this community means non-TF2 content means YouTuber is quitting, so I essentially am being forced to by my Discord server. Aside from that, the Patreon is very close to completion, and I plan to make the rewards very competitive, but if they seem a bit weird at first, please understand I'm just one person and I'm purely basing this off personal preference. Anyway, thank you very much everyone, I'll see you later down the sunny road. Cheers.